Good Thursday afternoon to you. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. Plenty of Browns to talk about, getting ready for that Christmas afternoon matchup against the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field. Dennis Krause from Spectrum News 1 in Wisconsin will join us a little later in the show to give us the Packers' perspective on things. We begin with the Browns' perspective. And let's take a look at this tweet from Browns center J.C. Tretter, also the NFLPA president, the union president. After experiencing mild cold-like symptoms, chose to test at our facility. And J.C. Tretter has tested positive for COVID-19. He is on the restricted list. His availability for the Christmas afternoon game against the Packers very much up in the air right now. It looks like the Browns could be without their center, J.C. Tretter. Some good news from the COVID-19 front. Grant Delpit, James Hudson activated off the COVID-19 list. Myles Garrett, John Johnson, Malik Jackson did not practice. John Johnson with that hamstring has been ruled out. Both Jackson and Garrett questionable along that defensive line. So a lot of questions about Brown's ability to get some pressure on Aaron Rodgers. Kevin Stefanski talked today about Tretter being out and filling that void along the offensive line.
Yeah, going to work through it, Tom. Like you mentioned, James Hudson comes back, so he will be available to us. See how Jed does when he comes off the list, potentially. Nick Harris obviously has to be ready to go if JC can't go. So moving parts, but that's the name of the game. Any of our guys that are unavailable, I'm very disappointed for them. And like we've talked about, whether it's an injury or COVID, JC is a big part of what we do. He obviously playing that center position. You're in the thick of it. You're making calls. You're doing so much from a mental aspect of working with the quarterback. So he's somebody that you don't just replace. But I think Nick Harris is definitely up to the task, and I think we have a bunch of smart guys along that front to help him.
Let's welcome in Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com. And Jeff, how big of a loss is J.C. Tretter? When I look at that, I just kind of go, that's going to hurt an awful lot. That's the middle of that line. You put Bitonio and Wyatt Teller on either side of him, and you got a really strong interior line. And now there's a lot of places and gaps that have to be filled.
Yeah, and the way that Kevin Stefanski phrased it was so matter-of-fact that, we're losing our starting center. Just adds to the litany of things that we've had to deal with in Cleveland over the last few weeks with the COVID and the injuries. They are, if any team is prepared to handle more COVID attrition, it is the Browns. But losing your starting center, and the context of losing it against Green Bay makes it even more difficult. Look, Nick Harris is a solid young player. He's not J.C. Tretter's level yet. We got to hope that he plays a very good game. That's a team that brings a different sort of look than what the Browns typically see during the season. They're a 3-4 team that is really aggressive with their inside linebackers. You got to have a smart, prepared center ready to go against that. Devondre Campbell, one of their inside linebackers, is one of the best linebackers in the league right now. And he's very good against the run. He can get out in the pass. He can pass rush if they need him to. They do a lot of gimmicks with their front line. This is not a week where you need to have your veterans out on the offensive line. So it's definitely a big loss. I do like Nick Harris. I like his potential. I hope that works out for him. But, yeah, this is one that like you said, it stings not having your starting center going into this one, for sure.
Yeah, and the other thing is the Browns are trying to kind of figure out that run game. Nick Chubb ran really well earlier in the year, 90-some yards against the Raiders, which is better. But Kevin Stefanski trying to figure out a way to get Nick Chubb in that run game back on track. Here's Kevin Stefanski earlier today.
Yeah, those are all things we talk about, Daryl. Certainly, I would just tell you, not specific to Nick, but the run game in the last however many games hasn't been as efficient or as explosive as it was early. It's never one thing. It's never one player or one scheme or those type of things. So we just got to do our job as coaches and putting these guys in position to succeed. We know that teams, and this goes back to game one as well, they're going to commit to trying to stop the run. And we have opportunities to still run the ball by scheme, absolutely. But there are also opportunities in the pass game. We just got to make sure that we, again, as coaches, put the guys in position to succeed, whether you're running or throwing.
So, Jeff, you watch this as closely as I do. Has the league figured out the Browns' running scheme? Is there something magical to that, or what has been what's been the struggle?
I do think that they figured out what the Browns are going to try to do on the ground, but that's not really a secret. What they've run, the plays, they just execute better. That's one of the things that they rely on, is that they have a very good offensive line. They have two good running backs, really three. We're not going to see Kareem this week, unfortunately, but Dearness Johnson is a very capable running back. They execute very well. One of the things that defenses have been able to do is they've been able to cheat their safeties up a little bit, because the passing game just hasn't been there to threaten over the top. That's certainly not something that Nick Mullins was able to do or connect with the receiving core that they had. Teams want the Browns to throw. They want them to try and challenge down the field, because that's what been the weakness of the team, whether it's Baker at the quarterback with Jarvis and DPJ, or whoever's out there at wide receiver. It just hasn't presented the threat that it needs to take some of the pressure off the run game. I do think that the backside pursuit from defenses has improved. I think that's something that you saw that the Raiders did pretty well. As soon as the defensive end, whether it be Max Crosby or the guy on the other side, got stymied from where they were supposed to go, they instantly dropped back and then ran across the formation instead of trying to cut the other way. And I do think that that's a smart way to attack what the Browns do with the one-cut style running and the zone blocking scheme. So the defenses have figured that out, but they still have the potential to do very well. The offensive line, obviously with Nick Harris instead of J.C. Tretter, that changes the dynamic a little bit. But you still have the best guard tandem in the NFL. If you get Jedrick Wills back at left tackle, who knows if that's going to happen or not, the tackle situation, run blocking wise, seems to be okay. So and James Hudson can help on that too. It's just a matter of executing, springing, and not being so predictable with the run situations. I think the Raiders and some other opponents have keyed in that the Browns are going to still run on 2nd and 9 or something like that instead of try to throw the ball. And they're still more dangerous running the ball than they are throwing the ball in those situations. So I hate to put the pressure on the passing game when you don't know if you're going to have your quarterback back. You don't know who's going to be playing at wide receiver or tight end. But they've got to throw the ball better if they want to run the ball better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and maybe some different routes, screens, little bubble screens. We keep saying that. We just haven't seen it. And time's running out on the season. You got to find something to do to get that passing game, opening up the running game again, if you will. Well, Myles Garrett questionable as far as whether he will be able to go against the Packers. Here is Kevin Stefanski on Myles Garrett's availability on that game, Christmas Day.
Yeah, he did not do anything at practice today. I would say he's 50-50. He hasn't done anything all week, so we need to see how he progresses over the next few days here. Obviously, he's very confident and he wants to play very badly, but we'll see how it goes over the next couple days.
And Myles Garrett said he plans to go, even if he's less than 100%. He was playing on one leg the last couple drives against the Raiders, so let's see if that improves at all.
Yeah, and it showed. I think you saw that he wasn't able to burst off the line the way that he wanted to. He can still win with power, but the speed moved. It's just not there. Look, it's Green Bay on Christmas Day. The field's going to be in hard conditions. It's going to be cold. It's actually not going to be as cold as what it could be. It might be somewhat pleasant, but it also might be wet. Cold, wet days. If you've ever had a pulled muscle, you know that's just not an advantageous situation to warm up. I absolutely expect him to play. I think he will give it his best. And the Packers have some offensive line issues, whether it be COVID or injuries, where they are somewhat vulnerable. So I hope Myles can get out there. I got every finger crossed that I can. But to expect him to be the player of the year, Myles Garrett, the defensive player of the year candidate that he has been, I think that's probably asking a little bit too much. And now you're doing it without Takk McKinley on the other side. The depth really takes a shot, and that almost worries me more, is that he's going to have to play more than he needs to, and not necessarily get the rest on drives that he should. Maybe only play him on pass rushing downs and things like that would be a great way to do it. But when you don't have Takk McKinley on the other side now, that the ability to platoon there, that sort of goes out the window too. So there's just so many different things that are stacking up against the Browns right now. It's tough to keep track, quite honestly.
Yeah, and you likely, there's a chance you're not going to have Jadeveon Clowney because he's still on the COVID list and went on it reasonably late last week. So unless he tests off of it, he will not come off of it. So still a lot up in the air, and that line looks awfully thin at this point. Yeah, and cross your fingers again that Jadeveon can come back, but you're going to need guys like Porter Gustin to step up and play like they've never played before. They have that potential. Again, one of the resiliency and the remarkable depth that this team has at most spots, defensive tackle not being one of them, but I think just that they're not signing guys off the street, that they have guys who have some experience and have some NFL ability. Obviously, it's not the same. It speaks to how well this team was stocked going into the season and why we were so optimistic. Oh, yeah, this team's very deep. From 1 to 53, they might be the deepest roster in the NFL. Well, now you're seeing that maybe 53 to 73, they're struggling a little bit. And, again, hope that some more guys get back. It was great to have Grant Delpit back. They're certainly going to need him. But the war of attrition is not a winning battle this year in Cleveland. Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, who Albert Breer thinks the Browns might be looking at long-term as quarterback, plus NFL's best defensive backs, 25 different skills, according to ESPN.com. A couple of the Browns are on those lists. We'll tell you where and who. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine and too late at night. But feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns, getting ready for the Packers. Albert Breer from SI.com has mentioned a couple of times that he expects the Browns to be a player in the Deshaun Watson availability as far as a quarterback goes. And he said it's an educated guess. He went on to kind of explain based on what he feels the Browns have budgeted for a quarterback for the next couple of years as far as salary goes. Thoughts on that one, Jeff Risdon? I guess I can see that.
It's a very interesting situation because you don't know what the availability is for Deshaun Watson. If he's cleared or if the NFL decides to let him get back and play, and we don't know that that's going to happen. But if that does happen, he is the best quarterback that's out there. Houston is clearly not keeping him. Look, I am a Baker Mayfield fan, but if you tell me that I can get Deshaun Watson instead of Baker Mayfield, I'm taking Deshaun Watson. No apologies not needed there. That guy's really, really good. He is a different caliber of talent than what Baker is. Baker's not far behind, but he is behind. So if you tell me that I can get Deshaun Watson for the same budget, for the quarterback budget that I can for Baker Mayfield, yeah, give me that. Now you're going to have to give up some assets to get him, and that might weigh the scales a little bit differently. But yeah, it's tough to predict what's going to happen with Deshaun because you just don't know what's going on. His court cases aren't going to be adjudicated until February, so that throws anything right now that we say just as total speculation. But it is something that we have heard, and Albert Breer's not the only person to make those sort of insinuations that the Browns would have some interest in an available Deshaun Watson. Doesn't mean that they're going to do it. It doesn't mean that he will be available. But look, they'd be crazy not to. Any team that needs a quarterback that's going to be out there this year is crazy not to go after Deshaun Watson. This guy's a legitimate MVP candidate when he's healthy and when he's on the field. He's had a year to get his knee healthy again, which is great. But there's a lot of clouds that have to clear for Deshaun Watson before he can play anywhere, let alone in Cleveland.
And again, we'll monitor that as it continues to go on. Just an interesting thought. All right, NFL's best defensive backs, 25 different skills according to ESPN.com. Best rookie cornerback, they say Patrick Surtain of the Broncos, number one. Greg Newsome of the Browns, runner-up. And again, Greg Newsome, questionable. He's currently on the COVID list. Has not quite yet cleared concussion protocol either, we found out earlier today. But have loved what I've seen from Greg Newsome. The biggest thing you know about a rookie cornerback, they don't throw at him. That tells you all you need to know. That means they don't see the ability to take advantage of him. And that's the best thing you can say about a rookie corner in the NFL.
Yeah, and with all the shuffling that they've had in and out with all the different cornerbacks, one of the things that was striking to me was that teams chose to throw at Denzel Ward instead of throwing at Greg Newsome. That tells me a lot about how the rookie's perceived. I love his awareness. I love his situational feel for the game. He understands how they're going to attack him very well. He's a very good tackler in space, which is something that we've got to see from the cornerbacks on the outside. Just a very heady, smart player. I wish he was on the field more. By the way, I think the concussion protocol and the COVID protocols overlapped there a little bit and prevented him from getting out of the concussion protocol, because you have to go through your full speed practice a day after one, and he isn't able to do that because of the COVID. So it seems like he's not going to be able to play this week at all, unfortunately, just because there isn't enough time for him to clear both the protocols that sort of go against one another there. But yeah, he's been really good. There have been some good rookie cornerbacks in this draft class and even in the undrafted. I happen to cover one in Detroit named Jerry Jacobs, an undrafted free agent who's got a future as a starter in this league. There's some good cornerbacks out there. Surtain, by the way, has been magnificent. That guy is a future All-Pro. The fact that Greg Newsome is still in that conversation, that's pretty darn good. I've been very happy with him. I wish he was more available more often. But yeah, you can't complain right now about how the first-round pick went there for Cleveland.
Another thing of that top 25 skill set, best closing speed, and this one goes flat out to Denzel Ward. And again, likely to be extended to some sort of long-term contract coming up is Denzel Ward.
Yeah, and he earns this. And you saw it the other night when he closed on that ball for the Raiders game, and he also did it in the I want to say it was the last Ravens game, where he made a couple of plays where you're like, oh, he's not going to get there. Oh, he got there. Yeah, that is remarkable. Look, I'm very proud of Denzel. His ability to tackle with the shoulder issues that he's had. Again, it's weird that you talk about a cornerback and their tackling ability when we're talking about their closing speed. But I think his closing speed has really helped his run defense. I think it helps him get more confident with making the sort of tackles that he is. He obviously can make plays on the ball. He did unfortunately get beat for the early touchdown last week by Bryan Edwards. Nice route, great throw. Look, even the best cornerbacks get beaten from time to time. But Denzel, he's a keeper. He's absolutely worth it, and he deserves a spot on the closing speed there. I will say, though, it's interesting that he got that over another guy that I used to cover and still favor a lot, Darius Slay of the Philadelphia Eagles. That guy can go, when the ball's in the air, from zero to flat out flying in an instant. He's right there, too. And there's some other good ones, too. Jalen Ramsey with the Rams is obviously another one. But Denzel certainly belongs first among equals in that competition, I would say.
Well, the other thing that we've talked about is Greg Newsome likely going to miss this. That's the bad news. The good news, Greedy Williams has played really well. Kevin Stefanski talked about how good Greedy Williams has been filling in for Greg Newsome this year.
Yeah, it's disappointing when we don't have our guys for any reason. You don't want anybody to get injured. You don't want anybody to get sick. So certainly not looking for anybody to go on that list. But yeah, Greedy stepped up, and he's done that throughout the season when called upon, and we'll continue to call upon him this week as well.
And Greedy Williams had that interception that many thought was going to clinch the game, and he's come up big like that a couple of times. Yeah.
I really thought that was over then, but c'est la vie. Yeah, he's played very well, and it's nice to see him come back after all the injuries that he's gone through. Again, it would be if you could get the top 7 defensive backs on this team, if they could all be healthy at the same time. My goodness, this secondary would be phenomenal, but it just never happens. But yeah, Grady, if he's your third outside cornerback and that's the general role that he's assigned to, you're looking pretty good as a defense. He can play, and he has a good matchup this week. It looks like Marquez Valdez-Scantling from the Packers is not going to make the game. He still has to test out a COVID. He could, but that's a team that's very heavily dependent on one receiver, Davante Adams. If Denzel can be over there, you're going to get some chances with Greedy to make some plays on some guys that are lesser heralded, and it's a chance for him to look good again. And I'm hopeful that we see him out there and be able to play a full, complete game and give it a go again. Because yeah, he did step up last week, and man, that interception should have ended the game. It really should have. I'm still frustrated about it.
So that brings up an interesting question, and let me ask you. If you're Joe Woods, if you're the Browns, do you put Denzel Ward on Davante Adams and say, go slow him down? That's not typically how they operate. They typically do not do that. But, it's kind of desperate times require desperate measures is where I think they're at with this.
It is, and I think the problems that they have with their safeties and coverage, the communication between the corners and the safeties, and again, this is not necessarily a player problem. This is more of an attrition problem. And just guys, who's that over on the other side? Who's my safety right now? I don't know because they didn't practice this week. I didn't practice this week. All that factors into it. I like the idea of being able to hand him off and transition him across the field from zone to zone. If he goes in motion, okay, you're starting with him with a linebacker on him, and then it transitions into a safety or an outside corner picking him up. You don't want Davante Adams to beat you. I saw somewhere today where some prominent national football source, and I wish I could think of who it was, called him the best receiver in the league. It's hard to argue that. The guy is really, really good, and he's good at a bunch of different facets of playing wide receiver. He runs great routes. He's physical. He's fast. He can run outside. He can play out of the slot. He goes over the middle extremely well. You're going to need more than one guy to just lock him down. It's asking too much of Denzel, even as good as he is, to just say, hey, go erase that guy. That isn't how it works against Green Bay. It's certainly not how it works against Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers throwing to Davante Adams. So they're going to need all hands on deck to handle that. Make some of those ancillary receivers in Green Bay beat them. Some of the times this year, those guys have stepped up, but other times teams have had success at trying to let other guys beat them. Obviously, it's difficult with Aaron Rodgers. He should be the leader for the MVP candidate once again. He made a couple of throws last week, and they were just like, wow. And he'll do that. And we're going to have to deal with that. But getting stops, keeping him from getting those free plays, yeah, you got to do whatever you can to slow him and Adams down because if you let them go off, if Davante Adams catches 7 passes for 140 yards, Packers are winning this game by 3 touchdowns. They might anyways, but that's a sure recipe for disaster for the Browns.
Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com and I going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we turn our attention to the Browns' playoff possibilities. What do they look like? What do they need to do? Who are the Browns cheering for coming up? Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns, getting ready for the Packers on Christmas Day. So ESPN's Football Power Index odds to win the AFC North. It's in the far right, the last column on the right. Browns 13.8%, Bengals and Ravens Bengals at 40.2, Ravens at 35, and then the Steelers bringing up the rear at 10.9. Now, the challenge with this, Jeff, the Ravens and the Bengals play each other this week. So if the Browns do, in fact, lose to the Packers, they're 2 out of first place with 2 remaining. So not a place you want to be. That's the bad news. The good news is those 2 are the Bengals and Steelers. So you still could, in theory, lose this game, come back and steal the division.
It is possible, and who knows what's going. Look, the Ravens, they're 2-4 in their last 6. 2 of those games have been cost because their coach made bad decisions on play calls on 2-point conversions. Look, I'm waiting to get struck down when I say this, but I'm not worried about the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that that one will take care of itself. I want the Bengals to win this weekend and ruin the Ravens' chances. Because, again, if the Browns are in a tiebreaker with the Ravens, that's bad. If they can win against the Bengals, that's what you need. You need the Browns to be in that tiebreaker with the Bengals, win those last 2 games against the Bengals and the Steelers, and they still have a fair chance at that point. It's not great. It does look like, unfortunately, that it's going to be division title or bust, that you're not going to get any wild cards at all out of this division, just with the way that the Chargers have surged up. You've got Miami playing a New Orleans team that's starting a guy that wasn't even on their practice squad a couple weeks ago, Monday night. So they're looking to get another win. So you're worried about your divisional rivals this weekend. I want the Bengals to win to set up a chance for the Browns to win out, and then you have to hope for a little bit of help on the Bengals front. They're going to have to lose another game as well. But that's where I want it to be. I don't want to be in that tiebreaker situation with the Ravens. So it doesn't favor what the Browns are at. So I'm again, fingers crossed, everything goes well. I do think that the Bengals, by the way, will beat the Ravens. Just with the Ravens situation that they are, you don't know what's going on with Lamar Jackson. Their offensive line is toast. Their secondary, my goodness, we complain about our injuries in Cleveland. Look at their secondary. They're really strapped for it. So. Yeah, and again, with the fear of being stricken down here, I'm not worried about Pittsburgh. I think the Browns are going to take care of that. But this one's a big one. And you can still lose this game and have hope, but winning against Green Bay in Green Bay on Christmas, not going to be easy, but it can be done. And if you do that, then you're sitting a lot prettier, both for a wild card and for the division title.
Yeah, without question. And so the teams that Browns fans are cheering for would be the Chiefs, the Bengals, because as you mentioned, the Ravens is not a good tiebreaker. 49ers, Cardinals, Patriots, those are some of them. Now the Bengals do play the Chiefs after the Ravens. So that would be, you're hoping for the Chiefs to beat them. That sets up kind of if the Browns can take care of business against the Steelers in that Monday night game, that would set up a kind of winner-take-all kind of deal for the Browns and the Bengals in Week 18. There's the scenario that you're hoping for if things do not go well on Christmas Day. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah talked about the challenge of facing Aaron Rodgers, the Packers quarterback.
I mean, he's a patient guy, a smart guy. He has the ability to get into the defense head and speak to him and, change up his count. Different things that he does to make him unique. And, he extends plays. He can do it all. He's a guy that's very versatile in his ability to look downfield as, rushers are coming at him. He does a lot of things, and, we'll be looking forward to him. So.
Yeah, and if Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah can have a big game, that goes a long way to helping that defense. But the Browns have played Mahomes, they've played Justin Herbert, they've played Joe Burrow. This guy's having a better year than all of them.
Yes, he is. And the big thing is, since week 1 or week 2, he hasn't turned the ball over. The turnovers that he's had have been flukes. You're really going to have to pray that somebody can make a big play, or there's a fumble, or something weird happens where maybe he drops the ball because it's cold or something like that. There's 2 other things that you have to figure out with Aaron Rodgers. He loves catching you with 12 men on the field. He's very good at getting you to jump, snap, and then take shots down the field. The other thing, if the Browns turn the ball over, one of the things that the Packers do better than anybody, and they do this with Aaron Rodgers, they did it with Brett Favre, It might be just a thing in the Green Bay water. They go after your throat right away, and they are so bloody good at it. You've got to be able to limit your mistakes and then not have them compound your mistakes on you. Nobody does that better than Aaron Rodgers. It's uncanny how good he is at it. You've got to have all hands on deck. You can't dwell on your offensive mistakes when you're the defense going out there, because he will bury you with it.
Yeah, and the other thing is Baker Mayfield should be good to go at quarterback. So his 10 days come up, and the Browns have said that they will, in all likelihood, as long as there isn't something extenuating, that Baker Mayfield will be playing quarterback against the Packers Christmas Day.
That's great. Nothing against Nick Mullins. I thought he did fine given the context that he was in, but Baker Mayfield is a much better option. And Baker tends to play well when the quarterback on the other side of the field is generally regarded as better than him. Whether it's the chip on Baker's shoulder or whatever, he does seem to rise to those occasions. Look, Cleveland, you're used to the weather. It's not going to be that different from being at a home game. Obviously, everybody's going to be in green and yellow, and that's going to change things a little bit. But I like the idea of Baker coming back. If anything, it's given his shoulder time to heal. It's weird that we don't even talk about the fact that he's playing with a torn labrum and a broken humerus in his left arm. It's sort of gone by the wayside since all the COVID issues have come up. But yeah, it's given him some time to heal. I'm optimistic that he will do well. I'm more optimistic, honestly, in Baker than I am in the receiving core and the inconsistencies that we've seen from those guys. Donovan Peoples-Jones is going to have to catch every pass thrown his way. He can't let the defender make the first play on the ball, and he can't let the ball get into his pads and hit the ground when it's on him. The same is true if Rashard Higgins is in the game. He's going to have a very strong game. David Njoku cannot have the concentration drops. He can't have it where a defender dives at his feet and barely touches him and he falls down. They've got to play sharp football. Baker being an inspirational figure can absolutely help, and I like that angle, but you're going to need more than that to beat the Packers.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, but again, much better chance with Baker Mayfield, and he can definitely throw the ball downfield better than Nick Mullins or Case Keenum. So see if they can get something together. They need to string together 60 minutes of consistent football for the first time in a long time. Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com and I are going to step aside, take one more timeout. On the other side of the break, we'll hear from Davante Adams about 2 and 3 guys double and triple teaming him defensively. We'll also take a deeper look at Browns-Packers, that Christmas Day matchup. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
So how do you stop Aaron Rodgers? That's what the Browns trying to figure out. Christmas Day, Lambeau Field. Nobody's really been able to do it. Here's Willie McGinnis on how you try to stop Aaron Rodgers. This is from NFL Total Access.
I do not think the Browns will win this game. But
right off the gate.
Right off the gate. I'm just being clear on that. But I think the Browns' front seven has a chance against this offensive line of the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers. I think if you got Myles Garrett, of course, he's a beast, one of the best in the game. We showed XOs were blocking 3 guys against him doesn't work. But you'll get Clowney back, right? And you got guys inside, and this secondary is playing at a high level. So I think the defense gives you a chance to slow down Aaron Rodgers in this offense. So if you're going to play slow ball, run the ball, be physical, keep Aaron Rodgers off the field, and the defense, you got to get some turnovers. You got to get to Aaron Rodgers. You got pass rushers, guys on the back end that can create turnovers and give your offense multiple opportunities. But keep Aaron over there on the sideline.
Or try to do so anyway.
And Jeff Risdon, we've talked about it. There is no guarantee that Jadeveon Clowney will come off that COVID restricted list. Possible, but not definite. And Myles Garrett, 50-50. He says he's going, but Kevin Stefanski not completely sure.
Yeah, and Stefanski downplaying it was a little bit of a reality check for those of us who are really excited that Myles Garrett's going to be out there. By the way, it would be nice if we had Willie McGinnis back and he could go out there and play. And he looks like he can still play, and he's got to be 50 years old. Good for him. It's going to take a lot of effort. And like he said, slow playing your offense, being able to run the ball. The Packers are vulnerable to the run. Their volume run stats look pretty good, but their per run stats, they're one of the worst defenses in terms of yards per carry against. That sets up well for what the Browns do well offensively. Run the ball inside, run the ball outside, hit big plays in the run. You're going to have to get some chunk plays out of your run game, no question about it, and that absolutely helps your defense. But you've got to be able to stop the Davante Adams connection with Aaron Rodgers in this game. Make him use his tight ends. Make him use his lesser wide receivers. They're going to make some plays too. They're good. That team's 11-3 for a good reason. They've played some exceptional football, but making them not get beat by. Don't let their stars beat you. Let Aaron Jones try to run for 25 times during the game. Slow the game down. Limit the possessions. I think even if he's getting a lot of yards on the ground and he's a good running back. That's taking away from the dynamic ability of that Packers offense to beat you over the top and beat you down the field. And that's what you really want to limit because what like we talked about in the last segment, when Aaron Rodgers, when he gets an opportunity to step on your throat, he's going to use both boots and stomp down as hard as he can. He has a keen sense of how to use that momentum against you. If you don't let him get that in the first place, then that'll help a lot.
And we need to mention the Packers, one of the best in the league in takeaways, plus 12 in the giveaway takeaway margin. So Browns can't turn the ball over, got to run the ball, and don't let Aaron Rodgers beat you. Simple, huh?
Well, I mean, it is actually a simple game plan, but obviously, as you mentioned, it's not going to be so easy to pull off, especially with a dilapidated roster. It can happen. Weirder things have happened in this league, but to expect it to happen is probably asking a little bit too much. I think the line on the game is 6.5, 7.5 points.
Yeah, it's up there.
That's probably about right. But the Browns have the absolute ability to give us all a nice Christmas present on Christmas afternoon. And wouldn't that be great going into the final 2 weeks, knowing that if you win both of those games, you're in the playoffs, and that does happen if you win this weekend. With a little bit of help, not a lot of help, but just a little bit. I do think that they will get that help. You have to play these games as if you are seizing your own control, if you are still in control of your own destiny. They win this game, they're in pretty close to that situation. Again, it's not going to be easy. It can be done. Any given look, I just watched the Detroit Lions were the worst team in football. They spanked the Arizona Cardinals, who came in the first team in the league to win 10 games. Detroit absolutely dominated them in all phases of the game. So weird things do happen. Houston has won 3 games this year. I don't know how in the world that happens. That roster is atrocious. There is hope out there, but to expect it, that's probably asking a little bit too much.
Jeff Risdon from BrownsWire.com. Jeff, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
My pleasure. Happy holidays.
All right, happy holidays, Jeff Risdon. Make sure you read them in the pages of BrownsWire.com. Well, each week, in conjunction with the Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program, we recognize role model students from all across Ohio. Today, we head to Medina High School and recognize Drew Aller, Mr. Football in the state of Ohio. This week's Ohio Lottery Partners in Education Shining Star. Medina's Drew Aller earned the title of Mr. Football this year by throwing for nearly 4,500 yards and 48 touchdowns. The award honors Ohio's best high school football player, but Aller is considered by most one of the top high school quarterbacks in the country.
He's got the best arm I've ever coached, by far. You can just, when the ball comes off of his hand, it's different. I mean, his arm strength is up there with anybody in the country.
Laird has coached a number of Division I college quarterbacks. His system allows Drew to showcase his skills with plenty of downfield passing. But Drew also puts in additional work to be mentally prepared.
He's a football junkie. You heard of a gym rat? Well, he's a football junkie. He can't get enough film, can't get enough of breaking down stuff with me. We watch film every day throughout the week and even in the off season.
I think just slowing the game down mentally, and last year I was pretty strong mentally, like getting us into plays, but this year I can just call the plays whenever I want when it's up to Coach Laird. So I think just the mental aspect of the game, and the receivers have really picked it up too.
On the field, there's plenty of hype for Drew Aller, and rightly so. Off the field, Drew is just as good. It's common to see him posing for pictures after games with opposing fans, especially young kids, and he always seems to be happy to do it.
It never gets old because I'm grateful to be in this position. Really, not many kids my age get to do this and have those opportunities. So I really just don't take it for granted because it's super cool to just ask for people who are coming up to me in public, just asking me for pictures and stuff. So it's kind of cool.
When you describe somebody like that, you're describing like they have that it factor, and he definitely has that.
Drew's college choices were pretty much endless. He recently signed with Penn State, where he'll take his 3.7 GPA and enroll in a few weeks to get a head start on his college career with the Nittany Lions.
It was really the coaching staff, Coach Franklin and Coach Yursich, the offensive coordinator, really did a good job with just building a great relationship with me. And it wasn't just about football, which was super nice. They really got to know me off the field and what I like to do off the field. So they're super easy to talk to, and they're the type of people that I can go up and talk to about anything, really. For me and just everybody else graduating early in my class that are committed to Penn State, just so we can get there, get a sense of the campus, really, and then just get a first spring ball under our belt, which is huge, especially for quarterback, just getting in there, learning the offense and the ins and outs, and then academically just getting a fast start on my degree, whatever I want to major in.
Coach Laird knows Drew Aller as well as anyone. He believes Penn State is getting a great quarterback and a better person.
Drew is absolutely one of the nicest young men that you're going to come across. I've been teaching for 30 years and coaching for 33, and Drew is honestly in the top 3 or 4 nice young men that I've ever coached.
Football is going to come to an end, unfortunately, at some point in my life. But I think having something to rely back on or fall back on, and that I'm going to finding something that I enjoy in academics is going to be a huge part of it too.
If you know a student who deserves recognition, we want to hear about them, and you can nominate them completely online. Go to OhioLottery.com. Find the About section. Click on Partners in Education. There you will see links to nomination forms. Nominate that student as an academic all-star, and they could end up being featured as our next shining star. Be fun to watch Drew Aller as he continues to chase his dreams at Penn State. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we turn our attention to the Packers side of things. Dennis Krause from the Roundtable on Spectrum News 1 Wisconsin will join us to give us the Packers perspective of this Packers-Browns game coming up on Christmas Day. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Sports4CLE continues. We continue talking Browns, getting ready for the Packers Christmas Day over at Lambeau Field, and we are pleased to be welcoming in Dennis Krause. Dennis hosts the Roundtable, Spectrum News 1 in Wisconsin. Dennis, appreciate the time. When we look at the Packers from afar, they look like they're playing really well, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Almost 36 points a game over the last month. Are they playing that well offensively, or what is going on with this offense?
Offense is playing well, and I think Aaron Rodgers has put himself in the conversation, certainly, to win a second straight and fourth overall MVP. 30 touchdown passes, just 4 interceptions. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. The thing that strikes you, a couple things about the Packers offense. They have weapons, Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, obviously Rodgers pulling the trigger, but they've been able to overcome injuries, particularly on the offensive line. David Bakhtiari is maybe the best left tackle in football, has not played it down this season. Actually had a knee injury, ACL, in practice New Year's Eve last year. So he's been out all season. They lost Elton Jenkins, who's a Pro Bowl caliber guard. He was swinging over to tackle. Josh Myers, who you guys know from Ohio State, he's been out with an injury, and yet they've overcome all of that. They've shown good depth, and they're sitting at 11-3. And if they win out, they have home field advantage in the NFC.
And nobody wants to come to Lambeau Field, especially on Christmas Day, if you will, at 4:30. That kind of led me into the offensive line. Have they been pretty consistent all season long? You mentioned Bakhtiari. I think he started to practice, but he's been ruled out for this game, and they're not sure when he will be back. How consistent has that line been?
Line has been remarkable because of all the injuries. I should add, too, that Billy Turner, a veteran tackle guard who served a lot of roles for them, he's out as well. So they're plugging in guys. John Runyon, who obviously his dad has great pedigree in the NFL. One of the things I think they've done very well this year is that Aaron Rodgers is getting rid of the ball faster. He had a tendency maybe in past years to hold on to the ball and look for a deep shot. And he realizes with this patchwork offensive line, if you will, that he has to get it out quickly, and he has.
How good has Devontae Adams been? I mean, we throw around one of the best wide receivers in football. You get to see him play each and every week. How good has he been?
He's been remarkable, and I think that the true testament to how good he's been is how much attention he gets from other teams. The last game in Baltimore, the Ravens were just determined. I mean, they doubled him at least on every play, and then sometimes they tripled him. And yes, they kept his numbers down, but obviously that presents opportunities for other players. Adams' rise, because early in his career, he was a guy who was, quite frankly, in danger of not even being on the roster. His rise to where he is now has been remarkable. He's put in the work, and he's a tough cover.
What about Aaron Jones? Is he a guy that maybe is underappreciated league-wide, not with Packers fans, though, because he's so versatile?
I think he is underappreciated, and I think the one thing he's done this year, he's caught 6 touchdown passes out of the backfield, which is the most for a Packers running back since Johnny Blood in 1931. So he's not only a good runner, and people think, well, you know, they got kind of a two-pronged running attack with Jones and A.J. Dillon, and Dillon is the sledgehammer, which for the most part is true. But that doesn't give Aaron Jones the credit for being able to run between the tackles, which he can do, and he's also a good threat in the passing game. You will see on Saturday both Jones and Dillon has turned out to be a very nice player as well, and he can catch out of the backfield.
How comfortable has Aaron Rodgers become with Matt LaFleur's offense? You know, there was a lot of concern when they switched over to LaFleur and how would they get along, and it seems like it's going pretty well from afar.
Yeah, I think that Matt LaFleur deserves a lot of credit because he stepped into a situation where, you know, Aaron Rodgers was kind of, people thought, set in his ways with all the years in the Mike McCarthy system. And what LaFleur has done, I think, exceptionally is listen to Rodgers, incorporate some of the things that he likes to do. And I also give LaFleur a lot of credit for kind of navigating the landmines in the offseason when Aaron Rodgers' camp, anyway, not necessarily him directly, was making noise about not wanting to be in Green Bay. That could have split this team apart. It didn't, and I think largely because of Matt LaFleur. And Rodgers loves to work with LaFleur, loves the creativity he's shown offensively, and I think he's done a nice job of not only appeasing Rodgers, if that's the right word, but also, more importantly, calling the right plays on game day.
When you look at this offense, is there any way to kind of slow it down? It hasn't struggled very often with Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback. It's struggled maybe when Jordan Love has filled in. If there is a way to slow this offense down, how do you do it?
You do it by shutting down the running game, making them have to pass, and then putting a lot of heat on Rodgers. But that comes with a risk because Rodgers is very good against the blitz. So you better get home if you're going to bring your defenders against him. Any quarterback, and Rodgers is no different, doesn't like to be pressured. So if the Browns can mount a pass rush on him on Saturday, that's their best way to slow him down.
Are you surprised at all at how good the Packers have played through the first 14 weeks as the number one seed? Given all the drama in the offseason, the opener was not good, losing to the Saints. But since then, it's been the best team in the NFL.
It has surprised me, and what has surprised me more than anything else is how they've been able to overcome all of the injuries, and not just end the roster guys. I mean, these are some of their top players. Jair Alexander on defense. I mentioned Bakhtiari already. Zadarius Smith, a good pass rusher at linebacker. He's been out virtually the whole season. So there's no way I would have anticipated they'd be 11-3 with all of those injuries.
Dennis Krause, host of the Roundtable on Spectrum News 1 Wisconsin. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we will flip sides of the ball. We'll talk a little bit about the Packers defense, Browns offense. We'll also get some keys to this game on Christmas Day. Sports4CLE will be right back talking Browns-Packers when we return.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine. Too late at night. But feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns, Packers, getting the Packers perspective from Dennis Krause. He is the host of the Roundtable on Spectrum News 1 in Wisconsin. Dennis, the defensive side of the ball, when I look at it, Packers are plus 12 giveaway, take away the turnover margin, one of the best in the NFL. Who is helping them do that, given that Jair Alexander, their outstanding corner, has been banged up, lost all year, pretty much?
I would say there have been three big additions to the Packers defense this season. Joe Barry, the defensive coordinator, who replaced Mike Pettin. And then I think you have to look at Devondre Campbell, who was an on-the-street linebacker that they signed in early June. And he's been terrific in the middle of that defense. And Rasul Douglas on the back end, who was signed off the Arizona practice squad. All he's done is had the game-saving interception in Arizona, and he's had 2 pick sixes. So these three guys, I think, have transformed the Packers defense that, was very questionable to pretty good. Now, I will add, the last 4 games or so, they've given up some points. And I think if the Browns are going to stay with the Packers on Saturday, they're going to have to score some points. And I think they can, depending on who's available, obviously, for the Browns offense. But this Packers defense is good, but I don't think it's great.
How are they against the run? The question Browns fans want to know is, how are they against the run? Because and the Browns' run game has struggled, but if they're going to do things, they've got to run the ball with Nick Chubb.
I would say decent. Interestingly, what they had problems with last Sunday in Baltimore, Tyler Huntley, the backup quarterback who was filling in for Lamar Jackson, he gashed them on the ground. I think he ran for 79 yards or something like that. So they've been better against the run than they were last year, and that's one of the reasons why Mike Pettin was essentially forced out as a defensive coordinator. One of the big developments this week here for the Packers is that Kenny Clark, who missed that Ravens game because he was on the COVID list, was able to be at practice Thursday, and assuming he passes all the protocols, he will play Saturday. He's the Packers' best defensive lineman and their best ammunition against a strong running game.
When you look at some of the things, and you mentioned Huntley, the Browns had trouble with him the week before when he came in for a injured Lamar Jackson. What other areas have caused some trouble for the Packers when they've given up points?
I would circle special teams, and I admit to not knowing the Browns special teams. I know they've had some issues with field goals. They've just replaced their punter. But I'm telling you, the Packers special teams have not been good. Mason Crosby, who's been a veteran, he's the all-time leading scorer in Packers history, has missed 9 field goals. They've had problems with the exchanges, all kinds of problems with penalties, mistakes, allowing long returns. And around here, the biggest concern that people have about the Packers headed toward the playoffs is their special team. So that could be an area the Browns can exploit on Saturday.
Yeah, they have struggled in special teams as well. Dustin Colquitt, the kicker they signed, was an upgrade, but their kicker's missed 6 of his last 11 kicks. Chase McLaughlin, they're sticking with him. The return game has not been a factor, so it's been a struggle for both ends. What do you think some keys to this are? If the Browns are going to go in, and it would be an upset without question if they go in there and beat the Packers, what areas would you be concerned with as a Packers guy? How could you see the Browns coming in and getting an upset win?
I think the recipe for the Browns, and I will add that the Packers are now the only unbeaten team at home in the NFL this season. They're 6-0 at Lambeau. They're tough to beat there. So I'm just telling it like it is there. But as far as how the Browns can win, I think get the turnovers. You're going to have to somehow force turnovers, fumbles. Rodgers doesn't throw many interceptions, so that's kind of wishful thinking. But if you can pop a fumble or two, and certainly special teams. I know you said the Browns' special teams have not been great either, but if you can exploit that weakness that the Packers have, if you can make the Packers one-dimensional, if you can close down the running game and make them go to the air, and you have enough coverage on Davante Adams that Rodgers has to go somewhere else, put pressure on him and then not allow him to get – you can tell. I'm listing a lot of things here are going to have to go right for the Browns to win.
When you look at it, different season this year with the playoff picture because only one team gets a bye. So there is, as much as this is a must-win game for the Browns, Packers are looking at getting that bye, so it kind of keeps everybody honest, if you will, playing right till that 17th game this season.
Very much so. Packers are motivated. I will say this. Packers have been to the NFC Championship game the last 2 years, and they've won 13 championships. So they don't put division titles or wild card berths on the facade at Lambeau Field. Like the Browns, they have a proud tradition. They want to win it all. And so Matt LaFleur has been to NFC Championship games before. What he has not done, and he's now in his 3rd season, he's been remarkable as head coach, but he's not won a Super Bowl. And that is what is in front of the Packers this season, if they play well. Now, they had the #1 seed and home field advantage last year, too. And Tom Brady came in on an unseasonably warm January day, and the Buccaneers beat the Packers in the NFC Championship game. So just being the #1 seed guarantees nothing. But to your point, Packers are highly motivated to have that because they're hoping that they get a chilly day in January where a team has to come in.
Speaking of which, is it still supposed to snow a little bit, be a little chilly Christmas Day at Lambeau, 4:30-ish when kickoff is?
You know, it might, but I think the Browns are actually going to be pretty fortunate. The weather here has been on the dry side as far as lack of snow. And while it's cold, it's not ridiculously cold. So I don't think the Browns will use weather as an excuse on Saturday if they can't get it done.
The other thing that kind of strikes me is Alex Van Pelt, Browns offensive coordinator, very familiar with Aaron Rodgers. How closely did those two work together, and does Van Pelt know a little bit about Aaron Rodgers that most people wouldn't?
Yeah, I think he does. Aaron Rodgers speaks very highly of Van Pelt, and it's interesting you bring that up because I think that was one of the things that kind of ruptured the Aaron Rodgers-Mike McCarthy relationship is when McCarthy essentially sent Alex Van Pelt packing without consulting with Rodgers. And Van Pelt and Rodgers worked very closely. And I imagine that this week in practice, he's sharing some of those secrets about what Rodgers doesn't like, which is really not a secret. I mean, he's his 17th year in the league. And like I said before, if you put pressure on him, like any quarterback, he's not going to like it.
Yeah, the key is you have to find a way to get pressure, and the Browns' defensive line is banged up. Right now, Jadeveon Clowney is still not tested out of the COVID list. Myles Garrett's questionable with a groin injury. Takk McKinley is out with a ruptured Achilles. Those are their top 3 edge rushers. None of them are going to be 100% if they play. So it will definitely be a tall task for the Browns. Dennis Krause, as always, thank you so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much.
You're welcome.
All right, Dennis Krause, again, he is the host of the Roundtable, Spectrum News 1 in Wisconsin. That'll do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. No show tomorrow because of the holidays, so we will see you back here Monday, 4 o'clock, when we will kind of dissect what happens in Lambeau Field on Christmas Day with the Browns and the Packers. Have a safe holiday. Enjoy it with your family. We will see you again Monday here on Sports4CLE. Have a great weekend, everybody.